Welcome. This is the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 6 of the first fiscal quarter of the year 2022. And as mentioned last week, we amended the acronym that we use on this particular channel. We were using the acronym American Descendants of Slavery because those legal definitions kind of rhymed with our story on the continent known as North America. However, now that we're past the Civil Rebellion and upon meeting with the other chiefs, we decided to go with the acronym that is 100% realistic with our American history plight, which is American Prisoners of War. Myself, I'm Chief Alligator. We also have Chief Quietwater. And here at the Lost Confederacy channel, what we basically do is we have to recover mentally as Americans, and we have to understand that we are the American. We're laying out detailed, factual information provided with proof of claim on a week-to-week basis to help our people understand you're not an adjective, you're not Black, you're not Afro-American, you're not colored, you're not Negro, you're simply American. You were denationalized during the period of the Civil Rebellion, which was an infight that took place amongst Europeans that were in the northern area within their states, as well as within their southern area. We've also proved that Confederacy is an American form of government. That's not a European form of government. So when you see quote unquote rednecks wearing Confederate flags, running around honoring so-called rebels, you have to understand they're living a lie. That's the first lie that they live. The second lie that they live is that they're American. They're not American, they're actually US citizens. The Americans are the people who have ancestors from their family tree that are buried in this land. These people have immigration documents because they came from another landmass. And so what we do here is we're trying to get our minds back to normal and understand who we really are. With that being said, we're going to continue to go into the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1865. We've already read the Amnesty document from Andrew Johnson, which proves that there was no Civil War. There was a civil rebellion, but not a war. And so we're now going into the 1865 Freedmen's Bureau Act, and we're going to go into the 1866 Civil Rights Act, and we're going to read the 1866 Indian Treaty. And so if you notice the timeline and all those documents, they all come about at the same time. And what we're doing as prisoners of war, being occupied militarily by the European on the land known as North America, we're trying to find where do we fit into these documents. We previously worked the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. There's no specific language that depicts directly to our group of people who descend from tribes and descend from a confederacy on this land. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to Chief Quietwater and let her read the 12 steps.
Okay. Okay, so the 13-week practical program of action for American prisoners of war. Number 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Number 2, who established that estate. Number 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparations. Number 5, they either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3, in addition to field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Number 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people. Gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Number 8, all businesses need operating cash. Spend money with American businesses. Number 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Number 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Number 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about their history on this land. A, have them learn about an American inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. D, they should know that the nation of people prior to European invasion militarily and culturally. And 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of this government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter will bring us together for our common cause.
Thank you. And I will do the American inventor for this week. The American inventor is going to be Thomas W. Stewart. Mr. Thomas Stewart was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan. His death date is unknown. I was unable to get that information. He invented the mop. The date for that invention was June 13th, 1893. And the federal patent number is 499402. And again, that's Thomas Stewart, American inventor of the mop.
The mop, you said, right?
Correct.
Thomas Stewart.
So we'll go ahead and I'll pull up the Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote. I will read quote number 3. It says, it was well, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. We're going to go with the third quote that we have. It states, it was well understood that if by the teaching of history, the European man could be further assured of his superiority, and the Negro could be made to feel that he had always been a failure and that the subjection of his will to some other race is necessary, the freedman then would still be a slave. If you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you don't have to concern yourself about what he will do. And that is the third quote. And this is an interesting quote because he mentioned freedmen, and we're actually working that document right now to see if this document refers to us. So I think that's very ironic. That's part of the reason why I chose that for this week. Next, we will do the legal definitions.
You want me to get those?
I got them.
Okay.
Legal definitions. The first one is going to be American, a native of America. Simply put, you just have to ask yourself a question. Is your parents, your mother and your father born on this land? Is your grandparents born on this land? Are their parents born on this land, which would be your great grandparents? That puts you right back to the Civil Rebellion timeframe where we are now. Just going to your great grandparents would pretty much outdate all immigrants, or 80% of the immigrants that have come from other land masses with immigration papers. Second legal definition, descendants. One who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either linearly or collaterally. 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Fifth definition, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Sixth legal definition, education, an enlightening experience. And I'm going to go down to the 5 historical maroon points. These principles apply to the last time that we were functioning as tribes and confederacies. First historical point was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Second maroon point, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Third historical point, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Fourth point, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. 5, maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans. It's the legal definitions, along with the 5 maroon historical points. Can you, you have the Constitution pulled up?
Yes.
Okay. If you can share your screen.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Article 1, Section 10.
Okay.
Okay. So Article 1, Section 10 states, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. And so we always like to remind people, again, getting your mind back to a normal state. We're so military brainwashed at this point that we don't even understand what real money is. We live in a society today where you have debit cards, credit cards, Bitcoin, but the reality is, and we have fiat currency, which is known as denominations of 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s, and 100s. But the reality is the only money is going to be gold and silver coin. So we always want to bring that up. The next section would be, what would it be? Article 2.
Section.
The militia.
Section 2.
Yes. And what article is this we're under?
This is Article 2, Article 2, Section 2.
Okay. All right, Article 2, Section 2. The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. And so we always like to remind people of that reality. We like to refer to the most recent event, January 6, 2021. You can see that the United States government is trying to make that some type of milestone day or some type of anniversary day and try to turn your mentality from the reality of what happened, which was an attempted coup d'etat. And so you cannot have a militia show up without the president. The president controls that militia. And so even with the riots going on in 2020, when you saw these different armed forces come out and pretty much attack protesters, shoot, kill, do bodily harm to these people, a lot of times our people call it racism. It's not racism, it's actually you're military occupied. And you don't know it because you don't know history, because it's been reconstructed or they've lied about what happened on this land, and they teach you from kindergarten to 12th grade. They military indoctrinate us to make us think one thing happened, when in reality, when you read the documents for yourself, you start to realize you've been lied to. So that's that. So we'll get straight into the Freedmen's Bureau Act. We'll go ahead and pick back up there in 1865.
Want me to share that?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. You can see this, okay?
Yep. All right. So we worked this last week, this first section. If you could just highlight, if you could scroll up and just highlight that first section real quick. Yep. So we worked this last week. This is basically explaining the structure of the Freedmen's Bureau. So in 1865, the United States government decided that they were going to create a bureau that was going to work in unison with their president Andrew Johnson's amnesty document, which is what you and Chief Biko had worked a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was asking certain people to turn themselves in and kind of laying out the penalties for those that were a part of the Civil Rebellion,
Right.
those that did not adhere to the amnesty document, and I'm sure they were doing that based on accounting for their citizens that were rebelling, they then, through the War Department, created the Freedmen's Bureau Act. And the Freedmen's Bureau Act, basically they financed some clerks, a commissioner. And so now they're kind of going to go out and start bounty hunting for all the Europeans in the South part of North America that did not turn themselves in through amnesty. Now they're going to register them through the War Department and through the Freedmen's Bureau Act. This is an important document because a lot of us like to attach ourselves to this document, just like the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And we could not specifically see where the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment applied to us. And so working this first section last week, we also did not see where it specifically refers to us. It's referring to the European that did not ask for amnesty. With me?
Right.
So I'll go ahead and start on section 2.
Okay.
All right. So it says, and be it further enacted that the Secretary of War may direct such issues of provisions, clothing, and fuel, and he may deem needful for the immediate and temporary shelter and supply of destitute and suffering refugees and freedmen and their wives and children under such rules and regulations as he may direct. So this is tying right into that first article that I just broke down. That's not referring to us. They're referring to the European that actually did not want the amnesty that the president was offering. So now, under the Secretary of War, they're also going to provide additional things after that rebellion because they basically tore stuff up. So as they go into the South, they're going to help their destitute citizens. We have to remember, we're not citizens of this government. We haven't found our entry point as citizens under this government at this point. Anything you want to share on that?
No, you nailed it pretty much, summed it up.
Section 3, and be it further enacted that the president may, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, appoint an assistant commissioner for each of the states declared to be an insurrection. All right, so not only do they have a commissioner, now they're gonna have an assistant commissioner, not exceeding 10 in number, who shall, under the direction of the commissioner, aid in the execution of the provisions of this act. And he shall give a bond to the treasurer of the United States in the sum of $20,000 in the form of manner prescribed in the first section of this act. So the clerks are going to be bonded, the commissioner is going to be bonded. Now we see also the 10 assistant commissioners, if needed, will also be bonded. basically liability insurance, just in case something happens to them. Each of said commissioners shall receive an annual salary of $2,500 in full compensation for all his services. And any military officer may be detailed and assigned to duty under this act without increase of pay or allowances. So that makes sense because it's coming up under their War Department.
Right. So they definitely going to be accounting for every single thing that they have to initiate, basically.
Correct. And they've already got their soldiers under contract through their military, so you don't get any extra pay. You just basically,
right.
What's the word, that you get deployed to this. If we deploy you, that's what it is.
That's it, pretty much. Okay.
The commissioner shall, before the commencement of each regular session of Congress, make full report of his proceedings with exhibits of the state of his accounts to the president, who shall communicate the same to Congress, and shall also make special reports whenever required to do so by the president or either house of Congress. And the assistant commissioner shall make quarterly reports of their proceedings to the commissioner, and also such other special reports as from time to time may be required. So another thing we were talking about last week was organized. They're structured.
Right, right.
They're not just moving haphazardly. And we can see that their government, unlike the treaties we've read, we can see that all bodies of their government are going to be informed about what's going on. Congress is gonna know, president's gonna know, the War Department's gonna know, and these people are gonna give their reports whenever and quarterly.
Okay.
Have you seen anything in here that refers to our group of people at this point?
Nothing specifically for us. This is just generally speaking. They, like you said, they're definitely organized in regards to how they're going to allocate the funds, and it's very detailed accounting, but definitely nothing specifically for us.
All right, section 4, and be
I
it.
can pick up.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and be it further enacted that the commissioner, under the direction of the president, shall have authority to set apart for the use of loyal refugees and freedmen such tracts of land within the insurrectionary states as shall have been abandoned, or to which the United States shall have acquired title by confiscation or sale or otherwise, and to every male citizen.
Okay.
Whether refugee or freedman, as aforesaid, they shall be assigned not more than 40 acres of such land. I know that's kind of long. So basically this is saying that the president will have the authority to basically use the land that were considered abandoned, confiscated. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good part. If you go up where it says president should have the authority to set apart, and then where it says for the use of loyal refugees and freedmen, such tracts of land within the insurrectionary states as shall have been deemed abandoned, or to which the United States have acquired title by confiscation. This is crucial because he's talking about those fake Confederates in the
right. Basically the land that they stole.
Right. And
okay.
So the United States government is saying, as we come in and, those of you that we burnt your town or burnt wherever y'all were living, you're loyal to the United States government, commissioner and soldiers and bounty men in that area, we'll shoot you 40 acres. Now,
wow. And we get that misconstrued that, oh, where's our 40 acres and a 40 acres and a mule, but that was never specifically intended for us.
Bingo. And that's why we're reading the document.
Right.
This is why we're reading it. So boom, not only are they going to shoot them 40 acres, the loyal refugees and freedmen, they're also going to confiscate land.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Because
Because
they actually stole in the first place.
right, but see, this is how the United States government is going to grow into Seminole territory. Remember, the only war that's going on is against the Americans.
Right,
So they had to fake a civil rebellion, which the president admits. He was like, y'all ain't no Confederacy. You're not you're not American. But they needed to do that in order to continue to move their military further in the South and acquire the land.
Right.
And to keep the peasants that were in the South, because history shows that King George, when he populated the estate of Georgia, he emptied his prisons, cleared all his homeless off the street, and sent them over here. So those peasants, to keep them calm, Chief Biko was coming in. So those peasants, to keep them calm, he's basically saying, hey, we'll give you 40 acres because the United States government doesn't want them to rebel again.
Right.
So Chief Biko, where we are right now, we've gotten to section 4.
Okay.
Only thing we've really done up to this point, if you could just scroll back up, Chief Quietwater, to section 2 and 3. So we can all be on the same page. So basically the Secretary of War in section 2 is saying that they'll provide clothing and fuel and immediate or temporary shelter for those Europeans that rebelled in the South that were claiming to be the fake Confederate. And then in section 3, the president appoints an assistant commissioner, and they detail his bond requirements, which was $20,000, and his salary would be $2,500 a year. And then they go into detail about quarterly reports and any other reports at any time that the president deems necessary. Basically, that assistant commissioner and commissioner through the War Department, they would have to provide those reports to Congress, and then Congress would, they would report those reports to the president, and the president would then turn them and report them to Congress, either house.
Gotcha.
So now that brings us to section 4, where you just came in. And what we're realizing right here is that that commissioner, under the direction of the president, shall have the authority to set apart for the use of loyal refugees and freedmen. That's what you heard me building on. Those loyal fake Confederates in the South that were willing to work with the United States government. They're willing to give them 40 acres. And what you heard Chief Quietwater saying is that's where we think we get 40 acres from, but it's actually talking to them. So if you want to just read what she has highlighted and jump right into the bill, then you can go ahead and run the point.
Definitely.
She's reading.
Definitely. So go ahead and read the highlighted part.
Yeah, and then if you want to build on just, where we are.
Okay, that's cool. Shall have authority to set apart for the use of loyal refugees and freedmen such tracts of land within the insurrectionary states as shall have been abandoned or to which the United States shall have acquired title by confiscation or sale. So again, keep going. Okay.
Until you get to the 40 acres.
Or otherwise, and to every male citizen, whether refugee or freedman, as aforesaid, shall have been, or there shall be assigned not more than 40 acres of such land. So I'll stop right there. Again, this is where we always hear the term 40 acres and a mule. As Chief Alligator and Chief Quietwater have been reading and pretty much highlighting today, the refugee and freedmen were those of the rebellion states. That wasn't us.
Right.
So us understanding that, we should know that this 40 acres and a mule story or narrative did not apply to us. I kind of liken it to the similarity of the PPP loan. A lot of y'all weren't qualified for that loan, but you still got it. So if we think of it in that type of instance, yeah, some of our people may have slid through and got 40 acres, but that doesn't mean it was for them.
Right.
So again, that's what we got to kind of highlight. Yeah, you might say, yeah, my folks, they got the 40 acres. Yeah, but again, they specifically said refugees and freedmen of the rebel states.
Right.
That's not us.
Yeah.
That's not us.
True.
Anybody want to build on that?
We were building on it when you came in, so Chief
Okay.
Quietwater can keep going.
Yeah.
Great. I like how you jumped in and you're right in alignment, and anybody who's watching is with us. It's a harsh pill to swallow that what we've been told is a lie. Reconstruction is real.
Right.
Reconstruction just means they're lying.
They've
Mhm.
lied, right?
Correct.
To fit their narrative and to fit their plan.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and pick up. Let's see. And the person to whom it was so assigned shall be protected in the use and enjoyment of the land for the term of 3 years at an annual rent not exceeding 6 per centum upon the value of such land, as it was appraised by the state authorities in the year 1860 for the purpose of taxation. And in such case, no such appraisal can be found, then the rental shall be based on the estimated value of the land in said year. So basically what this is saying is that that 40 acres, it will be protected in the use and enjoyment of the land at a cost. So they're saying that they're giving it to you, but they're going to tax you on it. They're going to tax you on it. Pretty much. So it's not that they're giving you this great thing. They're basically getting back, you know, their money basically from them. Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh.
Correct. As long as we
Okay.
remember, they're referring to the peasants that were rebelling in the South.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to understand their citizenship pays taxes to their government so their government can function.
Right.
Okay, got you.
So through this War Department, they're coming back into those areas where they rebelled, and they're like, yeah, we'll put you up on 40 acres and we'll protect you for 3 years.
For 3 years, right? Only.
Provided that money is right.
Right.
If that money ain't right, what, this is 1865. So by 1868, when it's time to look at that balance you owe, if you ain't paid, if you still delinquent, we're not gonna protect you no more.
Right.
There's a Seminole War going on with us.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Because
So
this is still. Oh, go ahead.
So when they say that the Union pulled out from protecting us, no, it pulled out from protecting them.
Right.
And left them to deal with us.
Great point.
Wow.
Great point. It's almost liken it to we see, you know, those mafia movies where they go to the local store and be like, hey, we'll protect you if you pay us, you know, X amount. No protection, then hey, you never know, fire, something might happen to your store. It's the same thing. So it's kind of like just putting that into your mind, into the mind of the viewer there.
Wow. Okay. Let's see here. For the purpose of taxation and such, and in case no such appraisal can be found, then the rental shall be based upon the estimated value of the land in said year, to be ascertained in such a manner as the commissioner may by regulation prescribe. At the end of said term, or at any time during the said term, the occupants of any parcel so assigned may purchase the land and receive such title thereto as the United States can convey upon paying therefore the value of the land as ascertained and fixed for the purpose of determining the annual rent aforesaid. So they are giving them the opportunity to purchase the land during that term, correct?
Correct.
The way my mind is working this document, I'm looking at, remember, military occupation. The United States government can't own anything, but what it's trying to do is re-register and reaccount for all of its citizenship in the Southeast region of North America, giving them the opportunity to purchase. Now, what if the United States government did not seize the land and all the records in the towns that we had? That's why it says the occupants of any parcel so assigned may purchase the land and receive such title thereto as the United States can convey, if they have it or not.
Oh, wow.
Got you. Okay.
And this ties into, I'm a little late because, I'm disconnected from Negro culture, but I just saw that movie, The Harder They Fall, last night.
Hmm.
And the thing that stuck out to me was the business deal behind the scenes. The whole play was about $25,000.
Mhm.
Right? It was one cat that was about to get out of prison. He had his gang go stop a train for 25 grand, but then it was another gang that robbed that gang. And so they were $25,000 short.
Mhm.
In that moment, going back to the Maroon historical points, how we're in alignment when you go back to the stories of that time, it was the gang that stood out in front of the citizens and was like, we got to levy a tax on y'all for $50,000. And the citizens were like, we can't come up with that kind of money. And then one of the subjects or citizens was like, I ain't giving you nothing. He had to make an example out of him and kill him. The point being, we're not going to come out of this situation without armed defense.
Right.
Have
Right.
to have an armed group of people. Those people organized, then dictate to the citizens of that population, and you lay the law down. Here's the tax.
Right.
That about the mob. That's just the way it works. You got to pay a tax for us to protect you. Y'all want to build on that? Now what we have preachers and nonprofit organizations getting the money, but they're not protected.
Right. No protection.
No protections.
And
Voice.
yeah, and just a latent group of people who are not going to fight. They're going to continue to ask and beg and continue to just sit back and wait for them to give us the scrappings of whatever is left over among other groups that we're lumped in with. So it's like we're just getting the least rations of anyone. So
Correct. I just piggyback off of you all, kind of in a different lane though. When you was basically saying how they don't own anything, they can't own anything because they're not of this land, or basically getting a title for a specific area or region. And basically what it kind of highlighted too is that we operated off of territories. We didn't have carved out estates or carved out type of areas. We just had territories. We were and pretty much what I'm getting at, we were aligned with nature. We never said we owned the land. We were of the land and used the land. It was a symbiotic relationship. So I definitely wanted to highlight that because, again, we were aligned with nature like a dog marks their territory.
Right.
We said, okay, this is our territory. And we understood one another as far as the other tribes or nations on the land.
Yep. Agreed.
The last section, Chief Quietwater, or you want to let Chief B go?
Yeah, I can. And be it further enacted that all acts and parts of acts inconsistent with the provisions of this act are hereby repealed. Approved March 3rd, 1865. So basically, it's just stating that anything that's against this will be repealed, basically, right?
Now, if we can, Chief Biko, can you pull up that amnesty document, and then we'll let Chief Quietwater stop sharing her screen, and you can pull up on your screen the amnesty document and the Freedmen Bureau Act, so you can tie the link further to help these people understand, because we just worked the 1865 Freedmen Bureau Act. Nothing specifically is to us.
Correct.
Just like the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment of the Constitution, we have to start looking at the people who look like us that are telling us that that document referred to us. And just like this Freedmen Bureau Act refers to us, we have to start understanding you're either militarily programmed and don't know any better, or you're our enemy. Now, you've read that yourself, Chief Quietwater. Did you see anything in there specifically talking to your great-grandmother and your great-grandfather?
Not one thing. And how we got this thing about 40 acres and a mule, I don't know where they pulled that up at. That was specifically for us.
Correct.
It's non-existent.
Okay.
So what about you? Do you based on reading those three documents, the Amnesty, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, and the Freedmen Bureau Act, can you see where those documents have specifically in writing referred to our group of people? Because we like to just assume we was
Correct. A part of something. No, nothing again specific to us. The only thing that would even be close would be the 14th Amendment and the Indians not taxed. But we know that referred to our relatives west of the Mississippi. So outside of that, nothing specific to our group of people or the American. So nothing there. Give me
cut
one
it off
moment.
or you pulled it back.
What's that?
Cut it off or you pulled it back.
Oh, no, I pulled it back, man.
Okay,
Pulled it
okay,
back.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, he went on and got him a got them things laid down.
Yes, sir. Trying to get this thing here. Library. For some reason, the link that I have isn't trying to pull up the Amnesty Proclamation. We're gonna get it right.
Okay. If I need to go on my file and pull it up real quick, I can. But it's just amazing to me, even with this slavery narrative, we're in 2022 right now. There are more of our people, quote unquote, convicted of a crime that are in quote unquote slavery now than there was back then. And what's always interesting to me is, why do people who look like us, why do they always reconstruct telling our story, and they always pick that one person that may have been incarcerated, right? And they try to impose that reality on everybody that was melanated. It's not real. We have to critically think and understand everybody was not under military occupation on a military work camp called a plantation if you had the skill of horticulture and you were a planter. And that's the narrative they try to pump, that everybody was under this condition. But go ahead. Oh, you couldn't pull up the, let me drop the link, the real link in the chat while you work that if you want.
Okay, got you. Let me see if I could pull this. Just need the single image. See if that'll bring. Oh, that's showing the old one. Showing this one. All right. So basically this one, and again, this was I believe the Freedmen's Bureau, that was in May of 1865, I want to say. Because I know this one came after it, or this one was in May, and that Freedmen's Bureau was in March, I believe. So this is directly after the Freedmen's Bureau, and this is pretty much going to, again, be speaking to a certain group of people. So again, as we work this document again here, let's go up here. Issue proclamations offering amnesty and pardons to certain persons who had directly or by implication participated in the said rebellion. And whereas, we'll stop right here, said rebellion. It's not a war, people.
Right.
There was no Civil War. And again, this is coming from the president at the time, Andrew Johnson. And I'll start here. Okay. Whereas many persons who had so engaged in said rebellion have, since the issuance of said proclamation, failed or neglected to take the benefits offered thereby. Again, those benefits being within the Freedmen's Bureau. And whereas many persons who have been justly deprived of all claim to amnesty and pardon thereunder by reason of their participation directly or by implication in said rebellion, there goes that term again, not a war, and continued hostility to the government of the United States since the date of said proclamation, now desire to apply for and obtain amnesty and pardon. So if we're painting the picture here, the Freedmen's Bureau was the first, not even olive branch, but the first act to bring the rebellious peasants back with underneath the government. So they're like, we'll give you 40 acres, 3 years, we've read off pretty much everything that they were willing to give the refugees as well as the freedmen of the rebel states. So it's knowing that in their minds, they were like, well, shoot, what they said they're only going to protect us for 3 years if we pay these taxes. We're going to need a little bit more if we're going to go back up underneath their control. Because again, go back underneath means you were already underneath their control at a certain level.
Right.
Us being the Americans, we had our own different governments, rules, regulations, everything. So understanding that from their view, they're like, we're going to need more than just these 40 acres, because who's to say you won't just take it back? So this is where the Amnesty Proclamation, again, just saying, we'll pardon you from all your wrongdoings as far as your actions within this rebellion. Let me see here. I forget where I just dropped off.
And if I can interject real quick, when you ran the parallel comparison of the PPP loan, when we say that there's a reset taking place since 2020, you're kind of going upstairs mentally and intellectually and understanding what's happening under this government right now. They're doing a similar thing for their citizens.
Yeah.
And so if you look at our group, the prisoners of war, if we aren't prisoners of war, why are you the only group that has not been issued specific resources and specific protection? You keep assuming, as you stated with the PPP financial assistance, we assume that these things apply to us, and you're going to go, you got the resources. Now in 2022, Biden has ramped up he's ramped up financial services through the IRS department, which is not constitutional.
Right.
It's not a part of their government, but they've got more employees now to vet the taxes. They're going to verify who was paying payroll taxes prior in 2019, those that got the resources in 2020. So who are they going to target first?
Exactly. Right.
It's unprotected.
Us. We're not protected.
Correct.
I just wanted to tie that in because they did the same thing in the late 1800s. You had those of us that did not speak English. That does not mean we were slow. We were speaking our own native tongue, depending on the land area that you came out of. These people are presenting offers. We know that they're liars because they've reconstructed what happened. So it's easy to assume that those peasants in the South, not only are they running from their bloodline that was a part of the United States military, they also got to deal with the Seminole War that never ended. So you can see them kind of finessing us, right? That's part of the reset, because now they're able to military occupy land on 3-year terms, as long as they pay taxes back to their government, and they can take over your estate.
Correct. Great point. Great point. And I like the way you highlighted the parallels. Again, history's pretty much just repeating or rhyming at this point.
Right.
And like you stated, we're at that reset. So again, we're learning this stuff because we need to know where we've been to understand where we need to go.
Exactly.
It's plain and simple.
And to clarify the misconceptions, what we've been fed, and just to see it in plain English, the 40 acres and the mule, and, how we were supposed to be protected, and, how things were supposed to be specifically for us, but it never states anywhere that it was specifically for us in these documents that we're breaking down. So I think that's important for people to know that's listening, is not made up. We're actually reading these documents from the Library of Congress, and these things came directly from them. So it's not hidden information, it's information that's in plain sight, basically.
Correct. And like you stated, like we take these bits and pieces of these documents, and our people, our preachers, our organizations who don't protect us, but tell us these things apply to us. Like, again, we have to look at them as the enemies as well. Because if you don't know the information, then why are you speaking on certain things?
Exactly.
40 acres and a mule, where is that at? Point to the document in which that comes from.
Exactly.
And when we do, we see that it doesn't apply to us.
Right.
Can I ask one
Uh,
more question, Chief Biko, if you can you pull up the 1866 Indian Treaty and the
Okay.
1866 Civil Rights Act, because we want to see which one has the earlier date, because that's the one we're going to start on next week. And
Gotcha.
then also ask yourself, those that are listening, what we're doing is we're citing to the documents in chronological order. So we've given you the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and now we've given you the Freedmen's Bureau Act, which is 1865. Now you got to ask yourself, why is there two documents in 1866? One addressing the 1866 American Treaty, and at the same time, you got the 1866 Civil Rights Act. So what we're trying to figure out is which one of these documents are pertaining to us. So the chair of this channel is going to pull up those documents so we can scroll to the bottom and see which one has the earlier date. That's the one we're going to start on next week. And all we're trying to do is just find ourselves in American history. We haven't found ourselves yet. Where do we enter during the Seminole War? As this image and behind me shows, we were in control of the Southeast region of North America. This was the last Confederacy to fall before they started pushing west of the Mississippi. That's a whole nother story. People whose great grandparents are on that side of the Mississippi, they have to tell that story. Everybody on this channel, our bloodline goes back to the Creek Confederacy.
Right.
And that was the 1866 Indian Act,
Indian Treaty.
Indian Treaty.
Mhm. I have it in file. Let me see. I may be able to drop it in the chat for you to pull it up.
That's what I had the civil rights one.
All right, I'm gonna drop it in the chat real quick. See if you can open it.
Okay.
And we just want to see which one dates earlier. Okay. All right, dropping it in the chat now. Let's see. It's not letting me paste it. Give me 1 second.
It's okay. I have this one up. I'll share this one while we're getting that one.
It's not letting me drop it.
So this, what we're looking at right now is the 1866 Civil Rights Act. And this here was on April 6th of that year. So April 6, 1866.
All right, so let me open up my document. Sometimes my computer will have an issue with sharing my screen. I don't know why it's not letting me copy it and just drop the link. All right, I'm pulling it up as we speak. All right, so it's populated. All right, what was the date on the Civil Rights Treaty? I'm sorry, Civil Rights Act?
It was April 6, 1866.
Okay, and then the American Treaty is April 28th.
Okay.
So we're going to start with that Civil Rights Act next week, so we can see Congress was pumping out. They're pumping out acts. They pumped out the act, then they came right back with the supreme law of the land. So we'll go into that Civil Rights Act next week and see, does it apply to us?
Right.
We'll see. We'll see. So far, what are we? 0 for 2?
Yep.
0 for 2.
Yep. Constitution and the Freedmen's Bureau Act don't apply to us. How do y'all, like you said, Chief Quietwater, understanding just reading these documents, knowing that they're lying, that this whole thing is a lie? How does it make you look at quote unquote scholars of our group that continually point to Africa and point to us being slaves, and they always nitpick these people that were in prison and throw them in front of us to remind us this is all you were on this land, and we keep reverse engineering it every week, showing you here's another
Right.
The inventor I did today was the American that invented the mop, right? So we're showing you all these different
Yeah.
industries, but How did
For
that?
me, I'm kind of on the fence in regards to things. I think that on one side of the fence, I think that people really just don't know. These scholars probably have not actually dug in as far as how far we've dug in and like you say, work the documents and break things down. And then you do have the other people or scholars who actually really do know the truth. They know the ins and outs of these documents, but they choose probably for financial gain, probably for, whatever their reasoning is. But I think that they suppress the information for the benefit of them and probably their family and their, circle of people that they deal with or whatever. But I think that it may be like 50-50 in regards to people that really just don't know, that they are just so indoctrinated that they really don't know and they're ignorant to all of this information.
What would you say, Chief Biko?
I say start with these folks right here, man. These
Right.
folks right here. A lot of them been in the Congressional Black Caucus since its establishment. So we can really point the finger at them for 50 years of indoctrination and continuing to spill every Black History Month. Same inventors, same people, same quote unquote slaves. So these people are the ones that continue to carry that narrative as well. So like Chief Quietwater was stating, it's a mixture of both, but it's also, part of the agenda. As far as the indoctrination from 5 years old to 18, 13 years worth of time to get us in the mindset of being at the lowest level of this United States society.
Right.
So it got to start with getting these people out of office and actually making sure we're teaching the correct things, like about ourselves, the right history. And that's one thing I love about our channel. We're not just coming off the top of the dome with narratives. We're reading straight from the actual documents.
Right.
Like straight reading comprehension, stuff that you learn in elementary school, reading and comprehend, and it's explaining exactly what we've been saying and what we're saying. We weren't the slave, we're the American. This is our land. And just those three in itself is going to help build the confidence amongst our people greatly. Because when you know you're from somewhere, you know where you're from, means you want to actually defend it and fight for it, make sure you upkeep the place. And just again, knowing who you are and where you come from. Like we wasn't some docile people just getting roped off. We fought in every war, still fighting, because again, there was no treaty for the Third Seminole War. So that should give motivation to be like, nah, we warriors.
Exactly.
We still standing. We ain't left nowhere like the rest of these people. Oh nah. Yeah, that's something different. That's something different.
Can one of y'all pull up privately, not without sharing your screen? Can one of y'all pull up your Facebook page and just tell us whether the Congressional Black Caucus has even mentioned American History Month, quote unquote, Black History Month, while we're in February? Can one of y'all just go to your and just pull it up? Because what Chief Biko just said, and I want to tie in the murder that just happened this week in Minneapolis again. And people may think that we were radical when we started this off, right? Talking about sitting down, economically starving this government that has no more money to repair us as the American so that we can start getting back what was taken from us under military occupation. Here's exactly what I was saying since 2020. You teach people how to treat you. You stopped rioting and protesting when George Floyd was killed. You allowed this group of people and the Congress of this government to not pass a George Floyd Act. Now here you are, less than 2 years, you're not even 2 years removed from George Floyd. George Floyd was May of 2020. You've had 3 other people. You've had George Floyd, Dante Wright, the kid that was killed during George Floyd trial, Now you got another 20-year-old that was killed by that same police department this week on a no-knock warrant, similar to Breonna Taylor. The only difference this time is the military, the National Guard, is already in Minneapolis to prevent another burning of police departments and such. And so we're not crazy. What we're saying is you didn't get anything. You should have never stopped after George Floyd. You should have made this government start protecting you. So here you are now with a new president and a new vice president. You got no federal protection, no specific federal resources as far as money is concerned. And now you've got the same rogue police department that killed George Floyd. Now they've killed somebody else. And this is the problem. Your Black Caucus. The issue now is you're not going to be able to put your front nonprofits out in front of us, hopefully this time. Because there was no Antifa before George Floyd. That was a co-op group that they placed in. Black Lives Matter raised millions of dollars. None of that money went to the families of the people that were murdered.
Right.
Tamika Mallory's and all these fake spokespersons, they reap the benefits. The Black Caucus gets the federal resources. This is the back row on the chessboard. The row in front of them are your nonprofits, churches, NAACP, Urban League. It's just a money game at this point. They're playing a corporate person's game with us. They're not protecting you. If the NAACP was really working for us, this would have stopped a long time ago.
Right, exactly.
Urban League was working for us. This wouldn't be happening. You have no protection. These people are making millions of dollars off of us being murdered. What are you going to do now, prisoners of war, that another person in Minnesota has been killed? Who you going to go to? Pay attention to these fake leaders that they put on TV of these organizations. They haven't done anything since 2020. Y'all want to add on to that? And we showed the Asian caucus last week how they just created a bill in 1 week to protect their people. There'll be no more mass killings of our people. You can't get that. What are you? You're not a slave. The narrative of slave, they say that stopped during the Civil Rebellion. So what do you call this 150 years after that?
Right.
You're not a slave. You're a prisoner of war.
Correct.
I'll stop right there. Chief Biko, Chief Quietwater.
I mean, shoot, you hit it right on the head. Prisoner of war. Prisoner of war. They've just evolved with the times as far as the treatment.
Right.
And we've seen that from Jim Crow redlining to crack epidemic.
War on drugs.
We've seen it.
Call it what it was.
War on drugs.
War on crime.
And now an invisible war. So who are these people that are fighting? Obviously us. We're the only ones getting killed with no protections. So it's time that we stop looking for that protection and just protect ourselves. Protect ourselves. And again, use every avenue we can to bring this government to its knees in regards to that. Starve them out.
Yeah.
All right. Do exactly what we list in those 12 steps that we read in the beginning of each week. We laying the blueprint out right there every week. Sooner or later it's gonna catch on. Sooner or later it's gonna catch on.
I'm in the line with both of you guys. I am in a line with you guys.
What do y'all anticipate seeing with this new murder that just happened in Minneapolis? Like, I think it's harder now for the sellouts. What are they going to do this time? Because you can't put Black Lives Matter in front of us because we just went through that last year. Like, okay, didn't get anything.
Right.
So what are they going to tell us now that the same police department has killed somebody else? Where do they go from here?
Exactly.
They're going to try to put the same fake people back in front of our faces, like the Tamika Mallory's and the Ben Crump. Is that his name? Ben Crump, the attorney, and it's going to be right there by their side. And the money play starts over again. Starts right over again.
And you said something the other day as a female. You said that you wouldn't do an interview if they were to take one of your children. And it's very interesting that these parents sit there emotionless and they never keep it real when they're putting.
There would be nothing to talk about on public TV in an interview if someone that I love is murdered by the police. There's nothing for me to be interviewed about. I don't get that. Never walked in those shoes. Don't know how it feels, but I just can't wrap my brain around someone talking me into getting in front of the cameras right after my child has been murdered. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. By the police. Different story if it's, in the street, something happened, a random killing, something like that. Even then I wouldn't. But at the same time, the police is the one that's doing the murdering. What is there to talk about? There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah. We already heard this story X amount of times.
Right. It's nothing to talk about.
Great point. So it's almost like they're signing a contract to be quiet and just
like damage control right after it happens. Like, who can be in their right state of mind to be in front of the camera explaining your feelings about your child being murdered by the police? Not a random killing. No, it just don't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense.
I don't know if you saw it, Chief Biko, but this young man was just sleeping on a friend's sofa under a blanket. He's not from Minnesota. He's actually from Texas. And he was sleeping on a friend's couch. They had a no-knock warrant. The person that they were looking for wasn't there. Sound familiar? Breonna Taylor. And they come in early morning and the young man wakes up startled. And when he gets up from, he's still got the blanket on him. So when he gets up off the sofa, they start unloading on him. Now the man had a pistol laying on the coffee table right in front of the sofa. So the first thing that they're going to try to do is they try to point to that and say, oh, he was reaching for his gun. He has a concealed carry license.
Yeah.
Which means his background is of such that you can't bring up his background because there's an estate that have already given him a concealed carry license.
Correct.
So it's like they're trying to put you in a catch-22. Oh, you got a license to carry, but if we bust in the wrong house late night with no warrant,
you don't have the right to protect yourself.
But then they did the opposite with the Amber Geiger case who killed Botham Jean. She went into the wrong house and they tried to use castle doctrine. So what it's showing is bust first, ask questions later.
Right.
You damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you got the gun permit, they come in shooting to kill anyway. So when they barge your dough in, shit. I hope you train. Hope you can shoot. I'm just being, you'll see as it plays out, but that's what's going on right now. They're trying to find, and that's another thing. If you're not a prisoner of war, why are they always trying to criminalize you for no police agency's behavior?
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. And putting the parents on Front Street when it happens.
Like you said, Chief, Quiet Water, they want our women to do damage control for their actions.
Exactly. And that's
we're the ones that's the victim,
right?
But we are supposed to do damage control. That's awfully strange. You would think it would be the opposite. They'll be doing damage control, but no. And that in itself shows the state of mind, their mind state in regards to what they think of us and who we are.
Yeah.
Is there an anniversary last year? Because last year was 50 years, 1971 to 2021. Did these people do something on BET or something?
Yeah, I think they did have that, some kind of ceremony or something.
They did?
Should have threw
eggs at them.
Okay,
yeah, they
did. I won't make a comment on what I was going to say. I was going to say there's no reason for them to come out and celebrate anything because being in existence and actually showing your body of work since you've been in existence is two different things.
Right.
It's almost like, hey, I've been in business for 10 years, but I ain't made no sales.
Yeah.
But I got a business license.
Right.
So this was a great class, y'all. We can go ahead and shut it down if y'all
Close it
want.
out.
Okay.
And they ain't post nothing this February. It's Black History Month. I don't see anything as far as their post.
They haven't posted anything for
They
your
ain't posted. Yeah, they ain't posted nothing since last year on February 24th.
wow.
As far as their post, I think they just seem to be reposting a lot of people's stuff.
So that speaks for itself, people. Why do you have a Black Congressional Caucus? That is your leadership. It flows downhill. If your caucus is not recognizing your month, they're not working for you. They're not
Facts.
working for you. That is the Black
Facts.
Caucus, and they have nothing about your month as of today, and you're 6 days in February. Come on, y'all. And you're in the year of a midterm election. What is the agenda? The agenda comes out of this caucus. They don't have one.
You know, they
They're
just
actually pissed that we're waking up and we're starting to look at who they really are. They don't have an agenda
Right.
for you. You're about to go out and vote based on what the TV tells you. You just did Chuck some pearls with Kamala. You got played.
Right.
You just did Chuck
Yep.
some pearls with Kamala. This lady came out of an Indian woman's womb from a whole nother landmass, and you're sitting up here letting her claim to have the same lineage as your mother. That woman's probably about my mom's age. My mom's a little older than Kamala. But yeah, she's basically claiming to be my aunt. Every time she says she's Black, she's basically saying, nobody in my family has a red dot on their forehead. No, that's not a part of my family
Facts.
tree.
Right.
Facts.
But they think
Facts.
we're that dumb that they can just take a light-skinned person that can get a perm that went to a HBCU and prop her up and just say, hey, she's Black.
Nah,
And then you hear
keep
nothing
that.
else after the fact, after she's
Yep.
elected. She hasn't promoted any of that. She actually promotes
damn
where she
thing.
really from.
Yeah, in front of the face. Oh no, I'm not doing nothing for y'all. Y'all tripping. And we see that passed by today, David Scott. That got his ass right back up there. David Scott. I think he part of Congressional Black Caucus too, right there in Jonesboro.
Okay.
Been in there for years. Now he got his re-election poster already up there. So just another one. They already same photo he done had since hell 99. So say damn. Yeah.
So
Oh,
keep
man.
rocking with us, y'all. We'll do it next week. We going straight into
Alright.
that 1866 Civil Rights Act. And again, we're just trying to find when did we become citizens of this de facto government.
All right. Good class tonight. Y'all have a good one.